Felberman, and I live in Nofi Alon, Shalabim, and I teach in the yeshivot and seminaries, the American yeshivot and seminaries, and I'm a tour guide, and so that's what we're doing. And if you put the two together, a little bit of limud, there we go, a little bit of limud with traveling around the country, that's a lot of fun. So, okay, today what we're going to do this time is we're going to discuss a little, again, once more the theme will be certain cryptic psukim or a riddle within, I like this mix between psukim and the archaeology and the sites. You know, it all comes together because we know our country better, and it helps us understand also psukim that might be a little bit cryptic. So, how archaeology in modern Israel sheds light on Tanach. And let us begin. I just want to say that as Torah Mitzion, I was in Silver Spring, in that's a Washington D.C. area for 2 years, and I just want to acknowledge one of my co-workers over there, Moshe Bolovsky is over here. He was with me 2 years ago, one of the team working in the Berman Academy and in the Camp Mill community. So it's fun to see you, old friends. Excuse me?
Put the lights out.
Oh, the lights.
Do you think we get the lights out? There. No, there, it's the other end.
The other end?
Somebody did it.
You're fat.
Beautiful.
Okay, and let us begin. And I see the volumes coming up also. Okay, we got a lot to do. Boom. So I just want to get us all oriented into where we're going to be. Obviously, we're looking over here. We're in the south of the old city of Yerushalayim. You can see very clearly the old city walls. And we're going to start off with a little bit of a riddle that comes up. So here we have, right, this is going to be the southern walls. Here's the Kotel Plaza, Shar Tzion, or that's Shar Ashpot. And then over here, it's going to be on the eastern side, Nachal Kidron that runs like this, Har Zaitim, Jaffa Gate, we're going to go up Jaffa Street. So that's Yerushalayim. Let's take a look a little bit closer. So if I'm looking here at the Kotel Plaza, here's Har Habayis, Har Moriah, Kotel Plaza, I'm going to come out of Shar Tzion. You can see that the road still runs down what used to be called the Tyropian Valley, or the Central Valley, and it comes and encircles around this little peninsula of land, connecting up with what's the Kidron Valley. This valley is between Mountain of Moriah and the city of David, and also Har Zaitim. You can see the Kidron Valley very clearly, even up until today. This is very, very steep. They haven't built on it. And this little peninsula of land is what we call the city of David. All right, and that's where we're going to take. That's where it's going to take our trails today, our travels, to start off with. We have over here again Kidron Valley, and over here you got Har Habayis and Har Moriah, the Tyropian Valley, or the Central Valley, which comes around like this. Okay, and what I didn't mention earlier is on this picture, you could see there's after Jaffa Gate, there's also a different valley called the Hinnom Valley, Sultan's Pull, which also wraps around and connects up with the Kidron Valley down below over here. So, this is how it would have looked way back when you're talking about the Jebusite city that's David HaMelech would have found. And I want to just focus on this area for the time being. We'll see, we'll get through early Yerushalayim, David HaMelech. I think we'll have to stop at that point. I'll push off Chizkiyahu to next time. If this is what it looks like, the Jebusite city, you'll notice that where they build the city walls. Like here's the bottom of the valley. Look where the walls are situated. Why is that? If you're going to build the walls down the bottom, right, then the enemy's right up against your walls. They could compromise your walls and you lose the battle. If you make the walls all the way up on the top, the enemy's over here. You know, how far can you shoot an arrow uphill? So if they're going to put the walls on the top of the mountain, the problem that we're going to have, in particular in Yerushalayim, in Bechlal, what's the scarcest thing in Yerushalayim? Water. Yeah, there's no water. Not that much water around. There's some over here in Har Moriah, a couple of springs, but down the main water source is going to be the Gihon Spring. The Gihon Spring, though, is down at the bottom of the valley. So I got myself a problem. I don't want to put the walls of the city to include the Gihon Spring, but I also, if I have the Gihon Spring, the water outside the walls of the city, then that's a problem. Obviously, the enemy will come, take over the water source, and that's the end of me. So the trick was that we found this, is that they built a monumental fortress. It's really, if you see the rocks, if you go to the city of David, it's just amazing. How do they build it so strongly? How do they move those rocks? But they have this monumental fortress, Mitzudat Zion, that's sitting over the water source, which protects the water source from the enemy. Now, if you want to get from the city to the water source, how are you going to do that without getting shot by the enemy? Well, we're going to have to go underground. In other words, we're going to have to build a tunnel, dig a tunnel that goes underground and connects up with the water source. And that's how it was, and that's what David HaMelech found when he came to the city of Yevus. The Yevusi, they were around for centuries. Very hard to conquer. It's like inconquerable. At the end of Sefer Yoshua, it seems like it was conquered. It's not clear, but as you start Sefer Shoftim, it's not conquered. Was it that Shevet Yehuda conquered it, gave it over to Binyamin, and then they lost it? Was it that Shevet Yehuda conquered this area, but never this area? It's not clear. But anyway, this is what David HaMelech is going to find. What I want to take a look at, because the Gihon Spring is the place that everybody has to show up on a daily basis, let's go way, 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 way back. Let's go before David. Let's go up to Avram Avinu's time, and that's where we're going to start our tour. All right? And that's where the riddle is going to be. Here I'm sitting on the walls. I'm looking down at Tanach al-Kidron. You can notice Har-Zeitim over here. The enemy's down below over here. And again, they can't, the walls are on top for that reason. They can't shoot upwards so easily, and I could defend myself pretty easily as well. Here's again, I'm on the walls looking down. Today this is called today Silwan. If you ask the UN, they're going to call it East Jerusalem, Arab East Jerusalem. We'd look at it and call it Kfar Teiman. That good old Yemenites walked in the late 1800s, early 1900s. They walked barefoot across the Arabian Peninsula, and they settled here first. Had to run away in 1929, but I don't want to get political, right? So that's what we look at it over here. That's why the city of David, a lot of the houses is just old houses that belong to Jews that were taken back. Okay, but anyway, this is what we're going to find over here. Now, around this area over here, near the Gihon Spring, and this is what it's going to look like. Eventually, David's going to take over. You're going to have the city of David. Over here is going to be the palace. That's the beginning of the city of David tour that they uncovered, Eilat and Mazar. And then you go over here, the Milo, the Ophel, and you come up to Har HaMoriah, and you're going to have the Beis HaMikdash. This is Bayis Rishon. Seder. Okay, here's my water source. I got the tunnel underneath. That's going to set up the stage for the next part. Now, the water source actually looks like this today. We still have that water source, the Gihon Spring. It's underneath this grading. In the days up until Chizkiyahu, this whole area fills up with water, and it shoots out towards the side, parallel to the valley. Till today, it says Canaanite Tunnel. It goes this direction. Maybe we'll come back to that. But that's how it is, and this is the beginning of our tour. This is a fellow named Eli Shukrun. He's been an archaeologist here in Yerushalayim for the longest time, along with somebody named Roni Reich, if that rings a bell by you. They're famous for...
They wrote a book.
Numerous books. What, I don't know which one are you referring to.
The one with illustrations.
Listen, practically speaking, you got to sell the book also, so everything, good pictures. Brechat Shiloh, Jerusalem Water Channel, the Pilgrimage Road, which is going to be open to the public at some point soon. Eli Shukran, I ran into him just a couple of months ago. He said he's not doing so much archaeology anymore. He's just touring the country and giving lectures, having fun. But Eli Shukran, I went with a friend of mine, Eli Shukran took us into a site that's near the Gihon Spring that he was excavating, which has not been open to the public. And the site really, and this is what we're going to, it's right near the spring, and what you find is like a lot of different smaller chambers. Now, it wasn't dug out enough that I could have a picture of all 4 chambers. We're going to have to visit each one step by step. So we're going to start right over here. If I take a look, you saw it was printed. What would this look like to you? What would you suggest? An oil press, right. So how does an oil press work exactly in ancient times? So what you would do is you have what's a bima, a beam. We call it a korah in the Lashon of the Gemara. It's wedged into the wall over here and has plenty of room to move up and down. And I take my baskets, fill it with olives, and then I load the baskets up, put the korah across the baskets, and start weighing down this korah with rocks, with weights. As the korah, because it has ample room to move, the korah is going to be pressing down. It squeezes the olives. The olive oil comes out into this little pit over here, through this channel into this larger vat, let's say, or a bathtub kind of thing, and then I could just take my vessels and fill them up with olive oil. All right, that's the theory. That's how it works. Lamaisa, I'm not sure where they got this from. Maybe Beit Guvrin, but this is what it would look like Lamaisa. You get the idea. Here we got the korah and the ropes with the rocks. All right, we see it. Here's the basin, and it's dripping out like that into your vats. Great. Okay, so I have an olive. That's it. The korah is in over here, but it's small. This is not industrial size. All right, it's a small. It looks like a private. Yes.
Can you explain how you got into there? I mean, where is this in relation to everything else?
So this is right near the Gihon Spring.
What do you mean near?
It's like if you go there today, the Gihon Spring, it's like there's a mountain. It's up against the mountainside of City of David. So they just started excavating on the side over there. I don't know why they picked that exact spot. On the side of the mountain, near the Gihon Spring, meaning on the side of the mountain. It's on the eastern side of the City of David as it goes down towards the road that's at the bottom of Nahal Kidron. Okay, there's a lot of construction around over there, but there are parts, especially the parts that's on the steep part of the mountain, that's part today of the national park. That, like, if you've been to the City of David, there's a whole place where you sit on seats and you look at the gates that were found by Kathleen Kenyon in the 1950s.
What period is this?
Oh, I'll answer that in a second. Okay, what period is it? I'll tell you in a second how early it dates. Okay, and that's part of the riddle. Okay, so look, this is smaller. I mean, I'll come afterwards and take the oil out from the little well over here. It's not industrial size. So I got one room which has a small oil press. Here's Eli Shukrun. I don't know if this is my picture or my friend's, but you see over here a little bit of a raised platform, which would be a nice place to put a sacrifice. And you have here this channel. What is this channeling out? Blood, yeah. Somebody told me this, and others argued that you can see that the channel sort of spreads out as it's going. And I was told that because what happens when water goes through or liquid goes through something that's spreading out, it speeds up the flow. Yeah, so somebody, I've heard both ways. Yeah. One is that the expansion sort of gives it a zets.
It's like an estuary of a river.
No,
yeah.
Narrower just makes it more stronger.
Makes it stronger. Thank you. Yeah, so I've heard different opinions. You guys could wrestle it out afterwards. But the idea would be that if blood is flowing through here, they want to get it out quickly before it coagulates. Okay, anyway, but the point is this looks like something that would be used as a mini mizbeach. Again, you could see the size of the little room. 3 people across. It's not large, but it's right next to the oil press. Now I go into the next room. Oh, this is a good old-fashioned matzeva. I think Rav Hirsch talks about it. I have to admit, I have to look at it again. What's the significance of a matzeva? But you're setting up a stone with a lot of stones around it, usually 12, and this was used for religious observance. Okay, there's a matzeva over here. It's supposed to signify some kind of a prayer to a deity, up close with stones going around it. Okay, it's still there. And here's, again, Ellie looking at what they found over here, and it was not clear what these cutouts are in the ground. They're 8 centimeters deep, about 40 centimeters long. What could these be? Now, the suggestion I heard from Shukrun was that he says still in Africa till today they use something like this, in which they're able to take like panels of wood and to sink them in like this. Here it's a little bit wider, and they have a post coming up over here, I guess over here, and again, they go up, the posts come up, they're anchored into the ground here, and you have like a wood that's going up, a wood plank that's held by the posts, and on the top of the wood plank are hooks. And this is good for taking your animal, skinning it, right? You hang it, you skin it. They're not clear what it's about. That's the suggestion I remember hearing from him. What's interesting is I have a little bit of a cabinet over here, like a little bit of a closet. There's another one also. And what they found in these closets, you put them all together, all right? look at this. You put them all together, and I got myself something's going on over here. So Shukrun thinks, or he suggested, that, hey, what does this look like if you put them all together? We call it Makom Pulchan. It looks like a religious, some kind of a site that's used for religious observance. You know? I got my oils, and I got his grain press also, skinning, Mizbeach. That's what so he said that this is actually a religious site. Yeah, albeit in the shadow of the Beit HaMikdash, but it's a religious site. And others argue, like you always find this in archaeology, they just said, no, it's underneath some gvir, some wealthy person, he had his private little area. But that's what Eli Shukran claims. Yes?
Another question. Is this within the walls, the Jebusite walls, or outside?
These are outside the Jebusite walls because they're down near the Gihon spring. Why would they be near the spring? Because that's where everybody would visit constantly. You have to get water. So people are visiting down there. That's the place where people are hanging. So that's what he says. So that's what he suggests. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there. And what was fascinating when he found it is that the thing is, like, the walls are still there. It's pretty much still in shape. What he found was that it was just sort of like filled in. It was filled in with, like, loose gravel, stone, sand, and so it doesn't seem like it was destroyed, but just like sort of put out of use. So what exactly is that? From when would this be? Who would have done that? Just like filling it in. And also what he found that's fascinating is inside these closets, the area looked like it had been swept out from, we always try to find these kind of things, pot shards. Through pot shards, I could easily, often figure out the dating. Like we know what certain periods of time, what kind of pottery they had. So pot shards will tell me often identify the time period. If there's anything residuals on the pot shards nowadays, we could do chemical analysis on it. But what they figured out, the pot shards that he had found inside the closets, and again, the whole place looked like it's been swept away. Pot shards were inside those closets. The earliest pot shards that he found dated back 3,800 years ago. So this is way before David. This 3,800 years. It's Jebusite Canaanite, and that's it. And it's a religious site that we still have, but it's a mystery, right? That's the mystery, and that's how we start with our riddle. What happened exactly over here? They just filled it in, and it was sort of like ripe for the picking when Shukran started digging it out. Now, for us to answer that, we got to do a little bit of a tour around the country, get an understanding of what we see and how the Psukim help us understand. In this case, it's going to be that the Psukim will help us understand not what we see. Last week it was what we saw and knew about the country, helped us understand the Psukim. This time we're starting the other direction. So let's take a look. Shukran suggests that this is what it looks like when it was functioning. Okay? He put in over here some incense offerings. A Mizbeach Torah. Seder. Okay, we're going to leave this for a second.
If it's that old, it got to be a Avodah Zarah.
Excuse me?
If it's that old, it has to be a Avodah Zarah.
Maybe. Good point. We're going to deal with that as well. We'll deal with that as well. All right. And so, what did I bring this over here? Okay. And I put it in English, sometimes Hebrew. So, Malachim, Solomon became allied by marriage to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took the Pharaoh's daughter, brought her into the city of David, and she was there until he could build her own palace, and that would only be until he had completed building his own home in the house of the Lord and the wall of Jerusalem round about it. It's beginning of it's Malachim Aleph, right? Beginning of Shlomo. Only the people sacrificed in the high places, obviously in Hebrew, Bamot. They were sacrificing in Bamot because there was no house built onto the name of the Lord until those days. And Solomon loved the Lord. So wait a second, Shlomo's doing everything right. They say, I think they say that this might be a little bit of a complaint that it took him 4 years to start building the Beis HaMikdash. But b'chol ofen, Solomon loved the Lord, walked in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places. Not that it was the wrong thing, but that there was a heter on Bamot. The problem being, though, that only, meaning, why did it take you 4 years? Okay. And the king went to give all to sacrifice there, for there was a great high place, 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon that altar. It's at that point that Kodesh Baruch Hu appears to him and says, you're walking in the footsteps of your father. What can I offer you? And Shlomo says, look, I just want to be able to help the people. Give me the smarts to help the people. And that's when Kodesh Baruch Hu blesses him with the Chachma and says, because you didn't ask for all kinds of like personal pleasures, so you're going to have that ability, you'll have the smarts. And because you didn't ask for riches, I'll give you the riches. All right, that's the bracha. That's what we're talking about. But this is going to introduce the fact that there are many times that we are sacrificing on bamot. You could see these. You walk around the country, you see like areas that are used for sacrifice, like just up in the mountains. Rashi points out mizbachim, right? Mizbachim bibamot, sacrificing the bamot l'shem shemayim. Kol harotzeh bonem mizbeach barosh gago o b'chatzero. So it was kind of fun. Everyone all around the country, people in their backyard. Somebody took me once up near Beit Dale. They found an old bama of Avodah Zarah or for Kodesh Baruch Hu. We don't know, but it was like in the backyard of somebody. It was a little place, a little bit of a stone stand with a couple, looked like a little bit like a cairn, like a horns on the edge. This is what's going on in the country, huh?
Where was the Mishkan at that time?
Oh, Yafeh. So where was the Mishkan? So let's take a look. The Rambam says, beginning of Beis Bechira, it's also in Zvachim and Kuf Yud Bet, I think. After the Jews entered the land of Israel, they erected the sanctuary. So the Mishkan was in the Midbar. Then they erected the sanctuary in Gilgal during the 14 years in which they conquered and divided the land. Okay, now I guess as we read, at this point in Gilgal, it's called Heter Bamot. I am allowed to sacrifice anywhere on a Bama. We'll have to try to figure out why. From there, they came to Shiloh. Anything in bold print is that they built a house of stone and spread the curtains of the sanctuary over it. Did not have a roof, but had curtains. The sanctuary of Shiloh stood for 369 years. Here, there was an Isser Bamot. You could not sacrifice on the Bamot. When Eli died, it was destroyed. Afterwards, they came to Nov and built a sanctuary, Heter Bamot. When Samuel died, it was destroyed, and they came to Givon, Heter Banot, and built a sanctuary. So I threw this in over here, kindly answer, no Aron Kodesh. From Givon, they came to the internal structure in Yerushalayim. The days the sanctuary stood in Nov, we go for 57 years. So it's a short period of time when there's a Heter Bamot. Most of the time it's an Isser Bamot. What's the difference between Gilgal, Nov, and Givon versus Shiloh and Yerushalayim? So if you look at the Mefarshim, and there's a lot of differences as far as also where Kachim Kalim can be eaten. If anybody's ever visited Shiloh, Kachim Kalim over there could be eaten as long as you could see the courtyard. That's why of the Mishkan. That's why all the mountains around in Shiloh are filled with pottery, pot shards, because people would have kedusha in the pot shards. But if you break the whole pot, the kedusha would be paka, would disappear. So there's differences in what exactly were the dinim. But the basic idea of Isser Bamot or Heter Bamot, can you sacrifice on a Bama or not, is going to be, and this is what seems to be the uptight, two factors. What's the two factors? Well, one's right up over here. Built a house of stone or some kind of a permanent structure. And what happens when Shiloh is destroyed? What's most significant besides, obviously Eli dies, he falls back. Shiloh is destroyed by the Plishtim. What else was terrible? A terrible event for Am Yisrael. Anybody remember? They took the Aron Kodesh. The Aron Kodesh had been removed to go to battle against the Plishtim, and they lost the Aron Kodesh. It stays by the Plishtim. That's that whole story. Stays by the Plishtim for a long time, and eventually, who's going to bring it back? David, and he brings it to Yerushalayim, to the Ohel. He doesn't. The Beis Hamikdash is not going to be built till much later after Shlomo comes into power. So you've got a whole period of time that the Aron is not going to be next to in Nov or in Givon. There might be there a Mishkan, even if it is some kind of a permanent structure, but they don't have an Aron Kodesh. It seems like you need, who explains, I think it was the Meiri, that if you have a permanent structure and you also have the Aron Kodesh, that the Kedusha that emanates from that place not only creates in Isser Bamot, but also would make a difference as far as Kachim Kalim can be offered. So that seems to be the Yesod over here, the fundamental idea. So during Shlomo, at the beginning of Shlomo's time, there's no Aron Kodesh in the Mishkan, and therefore you are allowed to have, there's a Heter Bamot. That's why Shlomo Melech is sacrificing on the Bama. So you have moments, why would a person want to sacrifice on a Bama? and not go to the Mishkan? Let's say Nov Givon. What's the draw of the Bama?
Convenience.
It's convenient and it's very meaningful. And it's it. Shir Shir. Ha'inyan da'akrava l'fnei Hashem mevi lidei ava v'dveikus. Right? And the Maharal in his Netiv Avodah talks often about the giving of yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And at the time when there was a heter to use bamot, Noach hayah l'misha rotzeh lidbeik ba'avat Hashem, such a religious zeal to be close to God. So therefore, la'akripa b'ma b'chol makom sherotzeh. So everywhere it's like we daven. Motzei Shabbos, every single building in Yerushalayim has a minyan. Like we daven all over the place. We want to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Netziv continues over there to explain that, and then when the Mishkan was rebuilt and there would be these Aron Kodesh, it still was very hard for people to have to wait to go to Yerushalayim or to that focused, that concentrated area. And that's why, even when Isser Bamot, because the people are far from Yerushalayim, they used to sacrifice to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on these Bamot around the country. And it was a problem, right? It was a problem. It was Asur, but it was a sacrifice to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now this obviously is slippery slope. What happens next? Then they start, let's say for example, a perfect example is what? Pesel Micha. A Levi comes by and he says it was Avodah Zarah, but we're sacrificing, calls that we're sacrificing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So people follow Pesel Micha. Eventually it's going to get up to Dan, up in the north. But then you start going towards, at some point, the Bamot are going to slip over into Avodah Zarah. So the question is going to be Avodah Zarah, or is it going to be La Kadosh Baruch Hu, L'Shem Shamayim, but maybe during Heter Bamot or Yisr Bamot, but it could be L'Shem Shamayim. So we have a lot of different possibilities when we go out there, archaeologically speaking, trying to figure out what was going on in the site when we uncover it. So, with that knowledge, let's go take a look around. We're going to travel down. Nice picture. This is the upper fortress there in Tel Arad. Anybody ever been to Tel Arad? Tel Beersheba, Tel Arad is a great tour. I'll suggest it to Tony and we should do it one day. We should just get on the bus and go out there. Amazing stuff. Just amazing stuff. Now you can know I'm going to give you a blurry picture, but just to give you the recognize again the idea of a tel is that it's an ancient in ancient times they used to build their cities on a little bit of a natural mountain, natural rise to give you defense. But over the periods of time, cities are destroyed and the next civilization comes and builds on top of it. And just that's destroyed and they build on top of that. So you'll have these trapezoidal mountains, which most of it's man-made, that comes over the years. And it's always like each strata of civilization moves up and gets destroyed, moves up. So that's what it looks like. Trapezoidal. So this is on the top. I just wanted to show you what the tel looks like. This I threw in just because I like the picture. Very pretty. But we're here in the upper fortress of Tel Arad. Now when you walk in there, this is really cool. There on exactly, again, just like the base of Mikdash, on an east-west axis, look what you got over here. I have myself a courtyard. I got, what does this look like? A mizbeach. And then I got another room that I walk in here. If you could see that a little bit better. Yeah, I come into the courtyard, I have them, and over here you could see it's like a room. They added on over here some mizbeach ketoris, and over here it looks like some kind of a raised platform in a matzeva. We'll see it again better. I'm not going to keep you in suspense. This is the suggestion. What do we got over here? We got a mini mishkan. We got a chatzer, mizbeach, and a kodesh kodeshim. Wow. And it's there, east-west axis. Yeah, it's like there's no arguing. It's a mini mishkan. Okay?
It's a breakaway minion?
I guess they were Jewish.
Why is it east-west?
Because like the Mikdash. The Mikdash is on the east-west. The entrance is on the east, and the Ma'aravi, called the Ma'aravi. It's the Kodesh Kodeshim is on the west side. It's on purpose.
Well, like now at davening we face Yerushalayim.
Correct.
So it's not facing Yerushalayim.
That's a good point. That is a good point. It's a very good point. This is during the time that the Mikdash is Kayam. I guess their zeal is to copy the base of Mikdash. It's a good point, though.
You compare it to Europe, where everything goes east-west instead of being
Yeah, that's also, I never understood why it's not south. But okay, but just, you're right, but just saying. No. But these are facts on the ground. Now,
And they make
it's Jewish first temple. All this is first temple. Got the men, first temple. What I want to look at clearly over here is, now take a look. This is I think there's a ramp over on the side. What's this Mizbeach made out of? So this area, the part in the middle, what's that? These are called field stones. What do you mean? You walk out over here and anything that looks good, a chunky stone, you come and you load it up. Field stones. On the side over here, these are newer, but the bottom survived, and this is mud bricks. Now it's amazing that should survive so many years. This goes back to the first temple, that's 2,000, let's say 700 years, 800 years old. And it still survived. Why did it survive? That's going to be part of the riddle. Because this area also was not, this is how we found it. It was filled in with dirt. It was just buried. It wasn't blown apart, it was buried. So that's interesting. So here's the mud bricks and the field stone. So I walk in further. Let's get a good look at that. Okay, you could see it clearer. Field stones, mud bricks. Yafet. This is what the Kodesh Kodeshim looked like. This is original, this piece over here, but they added this. This looks like a Mizbeach Ketoret, an incense offering. And over here, a raised platform again, some kind of a matzeva. This they found. It was laid down. All just filled in with dirt. Manyen? Why? That's such an interesting riddle. And if we continue, I want to now jump you elsewhere. All right, that's why I said we're traveling around the country. You can see from the background, anyone want to take a guess? Obviously, we're what area? Yafeh. Yafeh Mod. Again, next time I'm going to bring candies. But this is Shomron. It's going to be the Shomron. What am I looking at over here? Har Eval. Remember Har Eval and Har Grizim? Right next to Shechem? So we're now in Har Eval. Back in the 90s, and here a whole bunch of people looking in amazement at this structure. What exactly is this structure? Oh, so here you could see Yafet. It originally was discovered and called the Mizbeach of Yoshua on Har Eval. You have a ramp going up, and then you have a squared off area. We're going to get a better look at this. Adam Zertal, 1980s, he did the research over there. Interesting person, taught in Haifa, very connected to the sources. And he discovered this. He originally thought it was Mizbeach Yoshua. It's still open for discussion. I was looking at Professor Meitlis, who teaches in Herzog and in Tel Aviv. So he says that the dating more so is towards Shoftim, which is not a problem. You could say that they use the same area, but okay, it originally was called the Mizbeach of Yoshua, and this is what it is. You got a ramp, like in the Mikdash, ramp going up, and then you have a large area over here. It would be like a bama. In other words, you're sacrificing outside of the Mishkan, but this is a Mizbeach, very clearly, and if you see it up close, ramp going up, you got the squared off area. This, what would you call this? The Sovev, right? Remember that? The Sovev. There we go, better. It's like the ramp. Alongside the ramp, inside the Mizbeach and the base of Mikdash, it was also called the Sovev. Why is it Sovev? To encircle. It was like a halfway, a platform that went halfway and went around the entire base of around the Mizbeach on the half height mark. This is what they found. Now look, this is very cool. Again, they found this in Har Eval. When Adam Zertal came here, it was covered over with dirt. It was just covered over with dirt. He was able to dig it up, and he found it, identifies, Mizbeach Yoshua, let's say, just to make things a lot of fun. And interesting. However, these two are found covered with dirt. There are places that we have leftovers from a Mizbeach, but it's not just covered over in dirt. So for example, want to try it 2 for 2? You're killing me over here. Tel Dan is correct. Got a lot of water and Gan Eden, right? If you've been to Tel Dan, just beautiful up there. So we know Tel Dan is a great archaeological site as well. The gates of Tel Dan are going to be Yeravam and Achab. When does Tel Dan take on? It's like, it's famous in the Tanach. Why? Because Shevet Dan leaves what we call Gush Dan, Tel Aviv. They leave from that spot and they head up north. It was then Laish. But then afterwards, we also know that who makes Tel Dan like the place to visit? Yeravam ben Nevat splits the Malchus Yisrael from Rechavam, the son of Shlomo, and he sets up. Was he set up in Dan? He sets up Bama, and he sets up the golden calf. All right. So up there we have these sites. And again, I'm cutting. There's so much to see over there, and they have a Shar Avram. I'm just trying to stay focused because we don't have time. Is that they have a whole area which is clearly a religious site, and how it's squared off. Here we have the place that there was a mizbeach. You have stairs going up, probably from Achav's time, and they put in for you a metal frame with the horns, the karanot hamizbeach, and this is what the shape of the mizbeach would have been. Okay? If you use your imagination, boom, got myself a mizbeach, front row and center in this entire makom pulchan. The only problem is that this is what it really looks like. There is no mizbeach. It's gone. Why? How come over here the mizbeach didn't? I could say it's just a fluke of history, but why is it that the mizbeach didn't last over here, but in Tel Dan, but in Tel Arad, and in Har Eival, they were just buried over? What's the differences between the two or three? So, what possibly the suggestion is, what was happening in Tel Dan? This goes back to, sir, your point. What kind of a bama was over here? We know. Avodah Zarah is a golden calf. So there was Avodah Zarah going on over there. What's our mitzvah when you have Avodah Zarah? What are you going to do?
Right.
Totally destroy it. You blow it up. You metitz. You just shatter the whole thing. What would happen if I had a bama, heter bamot, isser bamot, lo yedeh, lo mishaneh. But if it's a bama that was used l'shem shemayim, that's interesting. So now l'chora, maybe you're being over on Yisurim, but there's kedusha to the makom. So what are you going to do with a bama such as that? You're just going to cover it over. You're not going to blow it up. It has kedusha. You just cover it over. Who would have done something like that? All right. And in the 3rd year of Hosea, Chizkiyahu ben Achaz Melech Yehuda becomes king. Ben Asrimva, he's 25 years old when he becomes king. He rules for 29 years. And Vayas Hayashar Beinei Hashem Kechol Asher Asa David Aviv Hu Heisir et Habamot V'Shibar et Hamatzevot V'Karat et HaAsherah V'Kitat Nechash HaNechoshet. He also, that's interesting, gets rid of the Nechash of Moshe. But he removes the bamot, he breaks apart the matzevot for Avodah Zarah, he destroys, he cuts down the asherot, the trees for Avodah Zarah. Is this supposed to be a diyuk? He seared the bamot, he removes the bamot, he doesn't necessarily destroy all of them. The ones that were used for Avodas Hashem, he just dismantled them, or covered them over, put them out of disuse. Oh, so Chizkiyahu, Yoshio also does. It says in the Psukim, Chizkiyahu is the first. When's Chizkiyahu? 700 BCE. Means 2,700 years ago. That means that it's a good chance that Tel Arad, the Mishkan, and what else? Har Eival was buried over by Chizkiyahu when he was trying to get rid of the Bamot. It was the Yisur Bamot. We had a Beis HaMikdash. Bais Rishon, first temple. But that's what he's attempting to do. This might have the markings of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Interesting. So here's we know is, here you see funny things out there, but this is going to help us try to identify exactly who is involved. So that who, therefore, why was this thing right next to the Beis HaMikdash? You're telling me this was still in practice? Beis HaMikdash is on the top of the hill? But this whole thing was covered over also. It still existed. We saw what was there. It exists. It was just buried. Who could have buried that? Possibly Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Possibly Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Why? And here's another clue. What did I tell you? I said that we had potsherds. So I had potsherds. Where are the potsherds found? They had been swept into these cabinets over here, closets. So it looked like somebody swept the place out. They had potsherds in there. The latest, I didn't tell you this because we ruined the drama. The latest potsherds, the latest dating potsherds were from about 700 BCE. It means after 700 BCE, this thing is no longer in service. Is that possible that this is Chizkiyahu's doing over here? That's what we assume. That's based upon what we know from the Tanach and what we see in front of us. unlike a place like Tel Dan, which was totally destroyed because it was Avodah Zarah. What's interesting, this is just Eli Shukran was saying this. You can't prove it. It's just fun. It's good if we had some chunt around us, then we could say the following. But the earliest, what was the earliest datings of those pot charts? I said 3,800 years ago. Who's around 3,800 years ago? Avram Avinu. So somebody said, yeah, but obviously that's going to be Avodah Zarah, except for one person that we do know about who's not an Avodah Zarah. Who would that be? Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem. Hotzi Lechem v'yayin v'u kohen lekel elyon. V'yavarchei v'yom ha'broch ha'van lekel elyon. The Medrash tells us who is Malki Tzedek? Shem, right? Shem ben Noach. The Medrash also talks about Malki Tzedek teaching Avram how to do proper avodah, korbanot. Possibly, is it possible that in Yerushalayim Eretz Kodesh, that next to the Gihon Spring, that whole area just stood around for centuries because it was a makom l'shem shamayim? So they never blew it apart. At some point, Chizkiyahu said, look, this is enough. We already have for 300 years a Beis HaMikdash, 10 minutes walk from here. Let's cover it over. But that's just a suggestion, okay? That you can't prove, whatever, but it's interesting. It's just interesting use of what we find in front of us and the understanding of the sources. Okay, so that having been said, I want to show you the exception and machlokis. I'm just trying to figure out what time we got. And here's the machlokis to the matter. So this little thing, it's really funny because this area that we found, you go tour the whole country trying to connect things up. Everything's connected in. It's a lot of fun. When I was in the tour guiding course, we traveled to this spot. This spot we traveled to last time also, 2 weeks ago. Anybody remember? This is Tel Beersheva. So when we visited Tel Beersheva two weeks ago, again, you can see this is a fuzzy picture, but again, just to show you that it's a tel. When we were in Tel Beersheva 2 weeks ago, we visited first over here at the Sha'ar, at the Be'er, possibly Be'er Avraham, from the time of Avram Avinu in Beersheva, and then we went to visit down into this hole in the ground, and we went into what was the water cistern reservoir underneath the ground. We're not going to do that today. There's a lot to visit here, but for our purposes, we're going to come into the gate and then go right over here to these main storage houses. They were probably also administrative storage houses because of their largeness. This is right at the entrance to Tel Beersheva. And if you build it up a little bit, reset the pillars, you'd have a storage house come in over here, and I got storage on both sides. Artist rendition, not bad, right? This is real stuff. It has a roof. It's not like just flimsy. They knew how to build. Okay, now, what we found here's examples of the stuff we found, believe it or not. We found in Tel Beersheva a lot of this kind of leftovers. What they found in the storage rooms of Tel Beersheva, okay, this is the riddle. What we found over there is they found a bunch of these stones, okay? The stones are, here they just were piled up, but they found these nice cube-like stones, and they found also, I think, 3 out of the 4 of these horns of the Mizbeach. So you take this thing and you put a little cement in it to make it look really cool. Yafeh. This is what it looks like in the Israel Museum. If you go to Tel Beersheva, you will find this is out right in front. Okay? Now, when I was in the tour guiding course, they said, look, this was a Mizbeach in Tel Beersheva, dates back to the 700s, once more the 700s BCE. Chizkiyahu's time or First Temple time. They were dismantled. This is what I was told in the course. It was dismantled, okay? And it was put into the storage rooms. And it wasn't blown apart, wasn't shattered. Was that proved to you? That it was Avodas Hashem Chizkiyahu. That's what I was told, just like Tel Arad down the block. It's only a 20-minute drive. That's what I was told. However, I was reading yesterday, Yoel Elitzur has a sefer, if you're familiar. He mentions different types, of these bamot. He doesn't say it was Avodah Zarah. However, Professor Meitlis says the following. He says, you got to just understand something. He says, where'd I put it? What do you notice the difference? We'll come back to that. Well, look, we could do this. Professor Meitlis says no. Tel Beersheva, Avodah Zarah. For example, look at Amos. Amos lived a few generations before Chizkiyahu. What's he saying? those who swear by the sin of Samaria, Avodah Zarah, and say, as your God Dan, Avodah Zarah, lives, and as the way of Beersheba lives, in other words, this is all Avodah Zarah, they will fall and never rise up again. So Amos is talking about Beersheba as having Avodah Zarah. Pretty cool. And another thing, let's take a look. If you compare this Mizbeach in Beersheba thank you. This is going to be Harival. What do you notice the difference? This over here is field stones, right? Very clearly, they found stones and piled them. Look at this. These are nicely cut cubes. Nicely cut cubes. Look at this. I'm comparing now Beersheba to... What do we say about this Mizbeach in Tel Arad? It's got mud stones and field stones. And this, nicely hewn, nicely cut stones. Now that's a no-no. Why is that a no-no? We're coming up on this in 2 weeks, right? And the altar of earth, Mizbeach Adamah, you shall make for me, and you shall slaughter beside it your burnt offerings, your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. Wherever I allow my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. Sounds like this is a heter bamot. And when you make for me an altar of stones, you shall not build them of hewn stones, lest you wield your sword upon it and desecrate it. And that's why we have the Mishnayos and Maseches Midos, that to get the stones for the Mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, both the stones of the ramp and the stones for the altar came from the valley of Beit Kerem. They would dig below the stones virgin soil. Why? They wanted to make sure nobody had ever chipped away over there with metal, and would bring complete stones that were never touched by iron, because iron renders them the stones unfit by just touch. Whoa, but how do you chop? I never understood this. How do you chop stones off a mountain without a pickaxe? Because Baruch took care of this when he created the world. You ready? We have places, outcrop, I took the text, outcrop in the watershed showing interbedded, that's the Lashon, interbedded limestone and marlstone. Marlstone is like a kind of like elastic clay that Kodesh Baruch Hu throws into the world. It's very soft. If you go to Sataf, there's like a layer of marlstone in the middle of the mountain, so when the rain comes down on the limestone hills of Jerusalem, it sinks through the mountain and eventually hits the marlstone, which becomes like plastic. Soft, but it becomes like plastic. So like sometimes you're at a lake and you'll see that the ground is sort of like a tannish looking, like very clear, very smooth plastic kind of dirt. So it holds up the water. At Sataf, they saw the water coming out of the side of the mountain. So they dug not a well downwards, they dug the well inwards. And that's what Sataf's about. So here you can see there's limestone and there's this very soft marlstone in between the layers. What does that mean? I could use wooden, I could use whatever stones, and I could just get rid of the marlstone, and I got pieces of limestone that just fall right off. We have this, I couldn't find it in Beit Kerem, but this is right outside Yerushalayim. This is Mevaseret, Nachal HaChalilin. This is that mixture of limestone and marl. That's how they built the Mizbeach in Yerushalayim, in the Beis HaMikdash. So when I come over to, if you take a look at what we saw, the Mizbeach in Tel Beersheba, nicely cut, nicely hewn stones. Professor Meitler says it's Pasha, it was a Avodah Zarah, and it wasn't just that, the stone, it was blown apart. What do you mean? So they were smart about it. Nice cut stone, so let's use it for secondary use. Just it wasn't in the storage rooms, but actually they used it for secondary use when they made the storage rooms. Sometimes you found them in the walls. So he argues the point. You could argue with that and say, no, it's the same thing that was dismantled, and at some point later on they put it together. But l'chora, it might be that that's a Avodah Zarah, and that would be the difference in what we saw. Now, it's funny because just a small little thing like this takes us all around the country, connects up to so many different sugyot. What I want to just do in the remaining time is go back to that one spot, and I want to talk about David HaMelech as he comes to that same spot, the Gihon spring. And now we're going to have a cryptic verse that we're going to be able to figure out based upon our understanding of the archaeology. At the beginning of Shmuel Bet, what happens? Shaul is killed by the Plishtim up in the Gilboa, right? For how many years? David is Melech already. Where's David start out? Yeah, he's in Hebron. Where is it? 30 years old was David, 40 years he reigned. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years. Why is he in Hebron at this point? What is Hebron, the capital of Shevet Yehuda. So he's welcomed amongst his Shevet, but the rest of his Ishboshet still alive, the son of Shaul. And they're having a tough time with those Plishtim. And at some point, all of a sudden, the elders of Israel come to the king in Hebron, and King David enacted a covenant for them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David as king over them. I remember I was learning from Professor Horowitz. Anybody go to BMT over here? Anybody remember BMT? I'm dating myself. BMT days, right? The Rosh Hashiva was called Whitey Horowitz. The Baruch Michaim, his son is Professor Horowitz. I forget, Aaron Horowitz. He has a couple of books. He's the head of the research center of the city of David. So he was talking. He said, "Can you imagine?" And they say to them elsewhere. They put in the words of the elders, like, "We remember you, David, from way, way back." He was talking about, can you imagine what after 7 years where they've been, what they're saying to David when they walk in? But okay, they say, now what's the first thing out of David's mouth as the king of all of Israel? And the king and his men went to Jerusalem, to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, right? They want to conquer. He wants to get himself a capital. Why is it that he wants to get himself a capital? Because on a very, I'm not talking about Avram and the Even Hashtiya and all the, on a very practical level. Look where Yerushalayim is. All right, that's where he wants the capital to be. Yeah. Okay. Washington D.C. Why is Washington D.C. right? Where is it? Right about over here.
It's in the middle.
Middle of the country, because it's going to be unifying, right? Virginia, Maryland, unifying the 13 colonies. Anybody from Australia here? Okay, extra points. You can't answer them. Extra points. What's the capital of Australia?
Canberra.
You guys are very intelligent. You know, you say, what, Perth, Melbourne, what?
Canberra.
Why is it Canberra? And this, I could be wrong, but I could be fact-checked on the spot. Why is Canberra the capital?
Midway between Sydney and Melbourne.
I have Sydney and Melbourne, yeah. So you go in the middle, put a spoke down the ground, the British built a capital. You want to unify the country. So on a very practical level, look at this. You're just unifying the country by putting Jerusalem over here. So he goes to Yerushalayim. And what happens? The king is went to Jerusalem. The inhabitants of the land spoke to David, saying, "You shall not come here unless you remove the blind and the lame." As if to say, David shall not come here. What's that supposed to mean? You're not going to come here unless you remove the blind and the lame. So cryptic. How do you understand that? So the Meforshim over here tried to explain it. You will see, okay? And what is it that David finds? We saw this already. I have the Jebusite city inconquerable. I have the Gihon spring over here protected by a monumental fortress. People are coming under the ground to get to the water. So that's what they're looking at. So what does it mean you can't come here unless you get rid of the blind? So says the Metzudas David, B'derech haflaga v'guzma. That's like shooting out like an adage. Lo tuchal lavo hina ki im kodem hasecha mipo kol anshim. You have to get rid of everybody. Af ivrim apsachim. This place is so fortified, even if the guards were blind and lame, they could still defend this place against you. Ki im yishair mimehem. If even these guys remain, we could stop you from coming into the city. Because of the strength of this fortress. Now, so okay, I get it. But this is going to be interesting. So David shows up and he says, "Vayoma David, Vayomahu, Komakei Yevusi." Anybody who fights beats the Jebusites. Vayiga bat Sinor. Anybody want to translate? And you touch the pipes. The pipes. Sinor touch the pipes. What does it mean? And you get rid of the Maked Psichim and the Ivrim, Snuei Nefesh David, who hate David. Al-Kain Yirmu, I'm using Rashi. Al-Kain Yirmu, that's why they say, Iver v'Piseach, if there happens to remain even an Iver Piseach, Lo Yaval Abai, nobody could come in. David can't come in. Okay, I get that we already discussed the Iver and Piseach. What's the idea of touching a pipe? But that's how you're going to get in. Makei Yevusi, touch the pipe. So a couple of suggestions. Look at the Radak. He brings down a medrash. What is a pipe? If you think about a pipe, a tubing that extends. What's the tzinor? Not a pipe with water flow, but it looks like a pipe. It's a big tower. Right? It's a huge tower, and it was so huge, it shot up like that. It looked like a pipe, and that was the way to keep people out. They could shoot down from it. They had an advantage. So what did they do? Ma'asu, Heviri Lanshal Brosh. They took a cedar, Ukafafoto, and they bent it down and so it should be springy. V'kafatz Yoav, right? Yoav ben Surya, the nephew of David, the valiant warrior. Allah Baruch HaChoma, and they shot him. They put him on the cedar, and they cut the rope, and it shot him across, catapulted him up onto the head of the top of the walls. We saw how high. They tried to kill him, but he was so valiant. And at some point, I guess he opened the gates, and everybody came and helped him. So that's going to be, all right, that's interesting. You're fat, right? That's one approach. So I understand tzinor. We're trying to explain what a tzinor is, okay? But when we say tzinor, what do we usually think of? Water. So let's get some water into the picture. This is going to be the Rabbi. Kfar Biarnu explains, Shkvar Yasham Tmunot Ivrim Psichim. The Rabbi is going to include also the blind and the lame. What does it mean? That there were these statues in Demut Maklot Gedolim Barzel Bayadam. They had these like structures, statues, blind and lame, I guess to represent the strength of the place. And they had these metal clubs. They had these metal clubs that were being held. Vamayim ha'ovrim bat tzinor. The water that would come through this piping, maniyim ha'maklotaim tamid, make the mechanically, there was these metal clubs going back and forth, like I guess a scissor action. That's how nobody got into the city. So you had to stop those metal clubs. If you get somehow into the water system and stop the clubs, that's how we're going to get in. Manyan. Now the Rabbi is showing to us over here, he at least deals with the tzinor aspect, but he is also opening up the fact that there could be different explanations. I'm not bound to the medrash that you catapulted Yoav. So here's a modern suggestion, okay? A modern suggestion, very quickly. And again, what did we say? The people were coming down from the city through a tunnel underneath to get to the water source. The water source was over here and used to also run parallel to the valley. Okay, let's do this quickly. I'm now at the city of David. You can see they cut the tunnel. The Jebusites cut the tunnel down. This is in the mountain. I'm going down, underneath the walls of the city. I'm walking inside the mountain itself, and I get to the spring over here, the Gihon spring. The water is filling up this whole area and rushing out this way parallel to the valley. This is what it looks like today. This is now dry because of Chizkiyahu, maybe next time. But the water would have been rushing along this cut-out underground water passage. This underground water passage, for the most part, was underground, leaving from here, going along, and there was like windows along the way. And if you needed it, you'd open up the window, and the water would squirt out, and this was called the King's Valley, the King's Gardens, and it would, that's how they irrigated the land. All right, modern shot. You ready? What would be a way let's see this clearly. Again, the fortress, the water, it's coming out towards the side. All right. What would have been a way for Yoav to have conquered the city and touched the tzinor? What looks like a tzinor over here? Does this possibly look like a tzinor? It's flowing water? Is it possible to suggest that somehow Yoav was so strong and valiant that he was able to get into these windows, fight the flow of water somehow, and be able to move himself up into the fortress, overpower the guards? Maybe he did at night, nobody's around. After he overpowers the guards, or him and his men, then they're able to open up the gates, and David HaMelech comes in. Is that possibly Vayiga Bat Tzinor? Modern pshat, because of the fact that the Rabbi and the Radak are saying different things, it gives us the license to be able to say so. I'll take the question in exactly a minute, so I could just finish up. Well, yeah, just...
May I have a suggestion here about the Vaiga Batzino?
Yes, but, no, we'll talk about it after I have to finish, because I'm over time. So I just want to finish up like this. That's a possible suggestion. David conquers the city. That's the water's going to be down here. City of David. Eventually, Shlomo is going to build the first place. I think this is going to be like that for the next 300 years. You finally get up to Chizkiyahu's time when what happens? It comes Melech Ashur Sancherib from the north. Mitzafon Tipatach Hara'ah. That from the north is going to come the enemy, both in the macro. We'll talk about this next time, what Chizkiyahu does over here. But to finish with a quick inspiration, what did we talk about? Nachal Kidron, Tyropian Valley, and the Hinnom Valley. What do we say? Again, the Hinnom Valley, Nachal Kidron, Central Valley. These, if you connect them up, connect the dots, what do you get? They're surrounding Yerushalayim, and there's natural protection on Yerushalayim on three sides. What do we say? It looks like a shin to represent Shakai. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects Yerushalayim on three sides. What does he leave up to us? One side we have to take care of, from the north, on the north. So Gam also in micro, in Yerushalayim, Mitzafon Tipatach Hara'ah, right over here is the Russian compound. That's where we have found the Romans camp. But that's what is left over to us. Just one side take care of. And when we do good, Be'ezrat Hashem, not only are we going to find ourselves here in front of the Kotel, but Be'ezrat Hashem up on top as well. And that's it for this round. Thank you. Hashem. I put my number in my mail. I'm also a tour guide, so in case you have relatives coming in, it's fun to walk around. Yes, I did.
I did. 6 or 7 slides before the end, you have a slide of the Shvatim.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great?
Yeah, I like it. There's one thing I like, one thing I hate.
And can I get a copy of that slide?
Sure. I found it online. I don't know.
Really?
Where'd it go? I don't know where I lost it. All right, whatever. I know what's good about it. I'll try to find it.